Hi everyone! Today we're going to be talking about book genres. But first, let's talk about what is a genre. A genre is a way to place books into different categories. There are two main types of categories, fiction and nonfiction. There are several characteristics of a fiction book. First, it is not real. It is a completely made up story with made up characters and sometimes even a made up setting. It is read for enjoyment. You read fiction because you're excited to find out what's going to happen next. There are sometimes illustrations in fiction pieces. Mostly those happen in the easier books for little kids, but sometimes even chapter books have illustrations. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end to the story. There are characters, settings, and a plot, which is basically the beginning, middle, and end of a story. And it should be read from beginning to end. You never want to jump to the end of the story because you want to find out how the characters get there without ruining the ending. There are several characteristics of nonfiction as well. First, it's a book based on real facts about real things. It is read to learn something. You read nonfiction because you want to learn about the topic you're reading about. It can be read in any order. It doesn't matter if you start in the middle or at the end because the information can be read in any order that you choose. It has photos, charts, and graphs, and sometimes a table of contents, a glossary, and an index. All of these help you locate important information. There are three main types of nonfiction. The first type is informational. It gives information on a specific topic, such as animals, science, or history. The next one is a biography. The word biography is actually two root word parts. The first root is bio, which means life, and graphy means written. So the word biography really means it is a story that is written about someone's life. And a biography is actually the story of a real person's life, but written by another person. The last one is autobiography. You probably noticed that it has that word biography still in there, but it has the root word auto in front of it. And auto means self. So an autobiography is the story of a real person's life written by themselves. Here are some examples of different informational texts. A book about water, penguins, space, and the newspaper all give information on specific topics. Here are some books that are biographies and autobiographies. Who Was King Tut, Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., and a book called Ugly, which the main character is actually the author. He wrote that story about himself, which makes that an autobiography. Next, we have fiction. There are 5 main types of fiction. The first one is fantasy. Fantasy has magical elements such as fairies and dragons, witches and wizards. It seems completely unrealistic because of all these magical elements. Some popular book that you might know that is considered fantasy would be things such as Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. Science fiction. Science fiction takes place in the future. It might have robots or be set in outer space, but it's also quite possible for science fiction to happen here on Earth, just sometime in the distant future, and Earth may not look exactly like what we know it to look like right now. Some examples of this would be Star Wars or The Hunger Games. Mystery. Mystery has a problem or a crime that needs to be solved. These are stories that are solved like what Sherlock Holmes does, or in books such as Nancy Drew. Realistic fiction takes place in the present, and it looks similar to our everyday life. So as you're reading the story, if it looks like something that could happen to you in real life, then it's probably realistic fiction. Some examples of that are Because of Winn-Dixie and Wonder. And historical fiction. Historical fiction, just like the word historical that you can see in historical fiction, it takes place in the past and might contain information from true events or people. Here are some examples of fantasy: Harry Potter, Narnia, Aragon, and Lord of the Rings. Here are some examples of books that are science fiction: The Giver, Space, Time Travel, Robots, and Aliens, The Hunger Games, and Star Wars. Here are some books that would be considered mystery: Nancy Drew, Nate the Great, Max Finder Mystery Collection, and The Boxcar Children. Here are some books that would be considered historical fiction: The I Survive series, Johnny Tremain, A Time for Courage, a Dear America book, and Little House in the Big Woods. And finally, here are some realistic fiction pieces: Wonder, Because of Winn-Dixie, Junie B. Jones, and Diary of a Wimpy Kid. So let's review. There are first two main types of genres that we learned about today: fiction and nonfiction. Fiction is completely made up. It is not real, and it's read for enjoyment, and you should read it from the beginning to the end. Nonfiction is completely real information. It is about true topics and true people, and you read it to learn. You can read it in any order that you want to find the information you want to know about. Nonfiction consists of informational, biography, and autobiography. And fiction has fantasy, science fiction, mystery, historical fiction, and realistic fiction. So next time you open up a book, think, what kind of genre would I put this book in?